Did you ever have to give up a sport or a physical activity that you loved because you had an injury or one of your joints wasn't working? Certainly that happened to me a long time ago. When I was 14, I went into the gym and a friend of mine was lifting weights, and he was attempting to lift 225 pounds. And I saw that and I looked at that and said, in the kind of teenage hubris, I looked at that and said, I can do that. And so when it was my turn, I bent over and grabbed the bar with both arms, with both hands, and heaved it up to my chest as strongly as I could. And I got it up to my chest, and something moved. Something moved in a place where things aren't supposed to move. And I heard a crunch. Well, I went and laid down right away on a bench, and I seemed to be okay after that, but I knew things weren't right after that. I'm Jim Cutzinger. I'm the founder of Poshada. Poshada is a way of life dedicated to healthy living, authentic relationships, and cultivating your unique potential. By the time I was 18, I was starting to have shooting pains. By the time I was 20, my back was locking up in the cold Michigan winters, the cold, damp winters, and my back would lock up and I would get very stiff, and my hips got contorted, and I couldn't walk normally. And I did notice that this got worse anytime I stopped moving. If I sat too long or stood too long, I noticed it was a lot more painful. And when I kept moving, I noticed it would feel better. By the time I was 24, I spent a month in bed rest. I was a candidate for back surgery, but back then back surgeries weren't all that successful. I knew people that did them and got worse. So I was not very encouraged to do a back surgery. So, and along the way, these physical these challenges led me into seeking, into learning more. I'm a very curious person, and so I got really involved in alternative ways that I might restore my health. After I was 24, I started to have these episodes where I would just be going about doing seemingly normal things, just picking something up or reaching over here or kicking out a foot or something, and I would get this stabbing pain, the shooting pain up my back, and then my back would go into spasm, and it would stay that way for 10 days, a week. I'd have to be in bed or resting, and eventually it would ease up after maybe 3 weeks, and inevitably, as I'd start to get closer and closer to normal, then it would happen again. And it got to the point where this was a regular occurrence. It happened 5, 6, 7 times a year. It was happening all the time. I was never really, so I was really partially disabled for up to 40 years. And all these difficulties drove me to this alternative, looking for alternatives to medicine, alternatives to surgery. And so I took up yoga, and that was really helpful. I took up chiropractic. That gave me temporary relief in a good way. I practiced Qigong and medicine. I practiced healthy eating. I still do. And I learned a lot, and I improved it. This improved my life and improved my health in so many ways. It was amazing, but it didn't quite fix my spinal problem. I still was having these episodes. I was still not healthy, and I was a little bit depressed I was very dissatisfied with not being able to function. And this went on for 40 years after that. So when I was 62 years old, one day my leg went out from under me. My leg went numb and just gave out, and I gently rolled myself onto the floor of my apartment. and just reflecting for a second. I decided to just relax and lay there. And I stared at the ceiling and I reflected, thinking, you know, what I've been doing doesn't work. Isn't going to work anymore. I put decades into creating a lifestyle of health and doing everything I could learn to make my back better, and I could tell that what I'm doing is not working. I could also tell not only is it not working, but I really had a sense that I was going to go downhill. That this was really the end for me. That I was afraid I was going to get much worse. And fortunately, I had this instinct, this inspiration, a reignition of an old inspiration, and I said to myself, I'm going to do whatever it takes to cure myself with exercise. I'm going to do that. I don't care. And then that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to make that so important that that's the number one thing in my life, and I'll let everything else go, even if it means I have to sleep in a car and be homeless, even if I had to. I'm just going to keep exercising and keep learning until I get better. So I reached up and grabbed the table nearby, pulled myself up very slowly, got myself on two legs, found out my leg was working a little bit then. I shuffled out the door and I started doing exercise. Started walking and doing some gentle movement. And I decided I was just going to exercise all the time and learn and see what I could find. A couple of days later, a friend of mine came to me and he said, you know, you should go visit this friend of mine. He's a chiropractor. And he and this other chiropractor, they have a sports gym. And he said, you should go visit him because they gave me these exercises. And every time I do my exercises, my back stops hurting. And when I don't do my exercises, my back hurts. So these really work. So I did that. I went over there and I started on their beginner class with one of them. And it was incredibly difficult. It was incredibly difficult to just my endurance. It was fitness endurance. I didn't realize I exercised a lot, and I didn't realize that the kind of exercise I did to keep my back safe wasn't building a robust kind of fitness. Yoga, qigong, hiking, walking, some swimming. I didn't do any of that. I always stayed in a relative comfort zone, even though I did a lot of it. So in this class, immediately it was apparent that was not going to be the case here, that I was going to be sweating and there was going to be a big challenge to my fitness, to my basic core aerobic capacity. I guess you would say aerobic and strength and large movements. So, and I was quite concerned that I was going to hurt my back, and I let them know about my back trouble, and they showed me how to keep my back in alignment during all these exercises, and I kept my eyes right on them when they were teaching, and I stayed near them so that I would sure that they were watching me and knew that I was doing these correctly with the alignment, and they spent a little extra time explaining the alignment. And when I learned that, I was able to do these incredibly hard exercises, very hard. And I have to say, I think I knew that something amazing was happening in 2 weeks. And I would say I was 95% cured in 6 weeks, definitely in 2 months. In 2 months, I had massive function in my body. I had not all my flexibility, but I had a huge restoration of flexibility. And the main thing is that the pain was gone and the disability was gone. And I stopped having the episodes. It cured the thing that was holding me back for decades. Everybody asks me, well, what did you do? This is a general fitness course. It's the type of training that athletes might do, sports athletes might do for conditioning. There's training you do for your sport, and then there's training you just to do overall conditioning. This is overall conditioning stuff. A lot of lunges and doing large movements. Anyway, I'm going to do a video on that, and you can get to the link below here that talks about that. So this was an amazing thing for me. After having hurt myself at 14, here I am at 62, after over 40 years of being partially disabled and living this very hampered life and being very frustrated, to finally, and it was freeing. And what I noticed is that this exercise, not only did it improve my mental state and my physical capacity, I was just trying to cure disease, but what it actually did is it turned me on. It turned me on physically, mentally, emotionally, my capacity for work, my capacity to take responsibility, to handle complex tasks, to manage more things, all that increased. The other thing that I was amazed to find out is that at 62, I was astonished. I was in this first class, and he came to me after about 6 or 8 weeks, and he goes, you have to go to the intermediate class because you could teach this class. There's no use in you being here anymore. And I was kind of shocked because I didn't feel that way. I didn't think that, I thought I was just struggling and barely hanging on and just hoping my back would hold up and I would get better. And he's telling me, you could teach this class. You've got this stuff really down. You're doing fantastic. He sent me on to the intermediate class, which was 3 times harder, and that scared the hell out of me. And I kept my eyes riveted on that guy. And we did crazy, difficult stuff in that class. And a little ways into after doing that class for a month or two, one of the guys in the class came to me and he said, when you're not here, he does the class easier, but whenever you come, he makes the class harder because he wants to he likes to make sure that you sweat and work hard. And so this was a real shifting point for me where I realized that I had a deep well of athletic ability at 62 that I just didn't believe anybody could have at 62. I had no idea. And yet it was true. And I hurt myself with the weightlifting in the beginning. Back when I was 14, that's how I hurt myself. Well, after doing that training, I continued that kind of training for years, but then eventually I went back to the weightlifting. Well, for my 71st birthday, I deadlifted 385 pounds. Having a sport you have to give up because every time you do that, a sport or an activity, it's starting to cause pain, and you say, well, I can't do that anymore. I want you to reconsider. I want you to reconsider the importance of basic fitness and the importance at which that can be as a preventative and a healer for so many problems, for shoulder problems, knee problems, low back problems, spinal problems. This kind of lifestyle that's more and more sedentary, that's at an epidemic level, overeating, overweight, staring into screens more and more. Of course, I'm staring into a screen here. For the first time in history that I know of, our lifespan in the United States has gone down and not up. Life expectancy has gone down, and we're being plagued by more mental disorders and stress and neuroticism and anguish, and it's no secret. And we're more addicted to screens, and I don't hardly know, even healthy people I know don't eat as much health food, don't eat as healthy as I think they should. And certainly the average American diet is horrible. The processed foods are designed to be addictive, and they don't give you the nutritional value you need, and they make you want to eat more and more. And so anything in a can, anything wrapped in plastic that has words on it, when you read the ingredients that are something that's not in your kitchen, that wouldn't be in your kitchen, that's an ultra-processed food. These ultra-processed foods are not good for you. And you go into the supermarket and everything in there is ultra-processed. It all has, unless you go to the produce aisle, and then even there they might have stuff in it. So it's not as much as trying to avoid, but it is I go to the farmer's market and buy a bunch of fruits and vegetables and make fresh grains and eat whole foods as much as I can. For convenience sake, I don't eat 100%, but I eat 80%. So most people don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. What's important here is that we think when a joint goes bad, there's nothing you can do. Your body starts objecting, and that makes you feel pain and suffering, and the sport or the activity just makes it worse. You think that's the thing that's causing it. That's just the aggravator. That may well not be the original cause. For most people, it's simply parts of your body, whatever the weakest part of your body is, the areas that are the most prone. We all have stronger and weaker parts of our body. Everybody has that. That's your profile. The weakest parts of our body, when they're stagnant long enough, those are the parts that stop working the soonest. And our bodies, everything in our body will stop working if we don't use it. If you don't use your body, it will stop working. When they put people in outer space, people got very weak and their bones started to decay because they were no longer holding up the work of holding up their body was not there. So they began to lose muscle and they began to lose bone. My point is that we are led to believe that when these joint problems come, we have to stop the activity that hurts them. And we have also led to believe there's nothing you can do. It's just age, or I have to stop, or at least I have to not do that. I can't do that anymore because I have this problem with my joint. I would say that the problem is underlying. The problem is underlying because, I can't say to what extent, but I can tell you that if you work with the underlying weaknesses, if you work with the underlying fitness, that will bring everything up. That will bring everything up and make you able to do. And this is science. I just looked up today studies that say, the studies show that if you let's say you do aerobic exercise regularly, and they study people that do aerobic exercise regularly at least 3 times a week, that's correlated to much less problems, shoulder replacements, knee replacements, elbow problems, wrist problems, neck, spine, ribs, low back, hips, all feet, all your joints, everything is much less, your whole body is much less prone to these problems that people think, oh, I got that, I hurt myself playing tennis. You can hurt yourself playing tennis, but so often that's the first thing and only thing people think of, rather than, oh, did I hurt myself playing tennis because I have a sedentary lifestyle, and this weak shoulder that I never use, you only use one shoulder playing tennis. So this weak knee that doesn't have what it needs is decaying from lack of use, decaying from lack of fitness. So I can tell you, I'm not here to give you medical advice. I'm not a doctor. And I do study and I do believe in science, but I also believe that science, we can't wait for science to tell us everything. We have to find things that work and not necessarily wait for a scientific study. And I think there is quite a bit of scientific study for what I'm saying, but I just want to say I'm not giving doctors advice, and you should talk to your doctor or your physical therapist about what you should do. But when I went to physical therapists, what I learned was that the treatment they gave me and what they recommended didn't work for me, didn't do anything. And when I got with the sports medicine guys, they started saying, well, and eventually recently I went to a sports medicine trainer for my knees because my knees have been decaying for a long time. And what he did was completely different. It all depends on the physical therapist you had. He worked my ass off. We worked so hard. He did so many exercises. He did a whole training with me that was just brutally hard on my knees. It was so intense, and my knees I do those exercises now, my knees don't give me any trouble. But that's a completely different set of stuff than what they give your average person that's sick. So, when they're treating the average person, they're treating people not for the underlying causes. They're just treating them for the symptom. And they're not trained to treat you on the more basic level of your fitness and the functioning of your whole system, of all your joints, of all the fluids that go in, the synovial fluid, and what keeps your cartilage healthy, and all the connective tissue, and the neurology, and the bones. We had this, I was a candidate for surgery for my knee, and it was like bone on bone. And when they say bone on bone, it's like, all the people I know, when they hear that, that's a sentence. It's like, there's nothing I can do now. It's bone on bone, And it's like, I had that 30 years ago. My knees are working better than ever, but I do some hard work on my knees regularly. So I guess my main point is, don't give up on your health or give up on the activities you love. It is the right thing to discontinue something that's causing you pain every time, but that doesn't mean to stop using the joint that hurts you. There's tremendous healing possible. And one of the ways is to simply restore mobility and to restore the flow of fluids and the activity and all the life energy that can go through your body and goes through that area that hurt. For example, if I have a shoulder problem, and I have a frozen shoulder, I know people that have frozen shoulder. Well, they were very stagnant, and they don't use their shoulder much, and that was probably their weak area. So what you can do is can you do this? Can you do if that hurts, then do half that and start moving it. Start doing it a lot. Breathe and do that 50 times. Just do something real easy, do a rowing motion very slowly, very gently. I always think of, try to extend the range of motion, do it small, do it a few times, see if that makes it worse or makes it better. If that makes it better, then increase the range of motion. Increase the reps. So eventually this becomes like this, you just keep it so that you're restoring motion. When you restore motion, now you're squeezing all the different kinds of fluids and the fats, and you're stimulating the body to respond. And so, there's two things. There's your overall fitness, and that's the first thing, is make sure you have great overall fitness. And that's like, an hour 3 times a week of something that makes you sweat, something that makes you huff and puff. If you're not huffing and puffing regularly, you're going to be prone to needing knee replacements, shoulder replacements, arthritis, chronic back trouble. We're going to have all kinds of stuff, all kinds of illnesses. And that's not to mention other organic illnesses. I'm focusing here on the musculoskeletal system. So I want to thank you for hanging in with me today. What I hope is that I can be an inspiration to you, and that what I've learned can be helpful to you. My main thing is that I inspire you not to give up and to keep moving and to find ways to move, because you will. If you have that commitment, you will. And it is possible. It is far more possible than any of us believe to get better of what we think are illnesses that are impossible or intractable. The things we accept, the inactivity that we accept as we get older, the inactivity that we accept an illness in many cases, in a lot of cases, is a really bad idea. Anytime I've been sick, I just got over 4 days of the flu. On the second day, I went to the gym to take a hot tub. Hot tub was closed. I got on the mat and just very gently started moving into an exercise routine. The more I did it, the better I felt. I worked out for an hour and a half into a full sweat, and I just felt 100 times better. If I just lay in bed, I'm achy. Nothing's flowing in my body. The germs are fighting with my immune system. So moving is always good. Not always, but it's the sedentary problem of our lifestyle. We really need, I hope I inspire you to make a commitment to being really healthy and doing whatever it takes. And I hope that I can be your guide. So if you look below, I'll show you the first part of the exercises that I did and other things related to this. Okay, so I want to thank you for hanging in with me. I'm Jim Cutzinger. I'm the founder of Poshada. Poshada is a way of life dedicated to healthy living, authentic relationships, and cultivating your unique potential.